Well, hello, I'm Charlie Nesson. So I am delighted to announce the formation of the Global Poker Strategic Thinking Society. This is an effort to launch what amounts to a new way of thinking. In structural terms, our global society will be an umbrella organization for the formation of poker strategic thinking societies at universities and schools throughout the world. The purpose of our effort is to teach life skills through a wonderful, in its way, quintessentially American game. Poker is a remarkable game in its simplicity and its elegance. I've long said to my students, if you can hold your own at a poker table, I have no worries about you when you get out into the legal world. You will do fine. It is a game which has had just immense popularity to it. And so the drive and the thirst, especially with young men, to learn this game is remarkable. It's a game which has an ecumenical face, open to every nationality, open to women as well as to men, open to every age. It's a game whose metaphors lead you quite naturally into thinking about how the power of position play resonates with negotiation skills. I'm particularly attracted to this game as a teaching instrument, as an educational vehicle, from the point of view of a great university like Harvard. From the idea of university as a whole, it's a way of connecting with bright minds all over the world and drawing them toward university in a structure that's not merely meant to teach the play of poker, but to teach the play of poker plus its many metaphors. We have as our immediate ambitions the formation over the next few months of at least 6 to 8 poker strategic thinking societies in local jurisdictions. And I'm confident that that's conservative, but that's a goal that I'm sure we can meet. We will be leading an effort to bring these poker strategic thinking societies together in what you might think of as a college bowl type tournament sometime in March. We'll also be engaging in numbers of workshops at secondary school levels. Our ambition immediately is at least 3 within the period between now and Christmas. Some in the United States. We're looking to do some in Europe and some in Asia. We will be planning at least 2 conferences that deal at the level of the conceptual metaphors. That is, conferences that take into their purview poker strategic thinking for purposes of cognitive theory, game theory, studies of strategy. We have as an ambition the legitimation of poker. Poker has come out of a background in which people have had questions and doubts about it. It's been lumped together with some other forms of play, particularly with games of chance. But the distinction of poker from games of chance, the categorization of poker as a true game of skill and as an educational instrument for teaching life skills, that's a legitimating force that we are eager to put across. I'd like to describe our advisors, our board of advisors. Partnered with me in this enterprise is Professor Lawrence Lessig. Lawrence Lessig is, by my lights, the leading spokesperson for an open internet. And it's part of our objective with the Global Poker Strategic Thinking Society to advance the cause of internet democracy. We're also joined on our board of advisors by Jonathan Cohen. Jonathan leads the Wiser Group, which is a public relations group in New York City. And he is expressive of the idea that core to the Global Poker Strategic Thinking Society is an envisioning of the environment as rhetorical. In a sense, the strategy of our own work is to recognize a rhetorical environment in which the objective is to change the position of poker. I'd also like to introduce to you Mr. Andrew Woods. Andrew is a third-year law student at Harvard Law School. He's been one of the key organizers of an organization at Harvard called HL Central, which has an internet base to it, and yet has also become just a core organization within the student world of Harvard Law School. Andrew, in a way, epitomizes the kind of person that I want to see poker touch. He's someone who learned poker, played poker, earned money from playing poker, enough to allow him, with some other supplement, to actually go to law school. So the hero of my conception of the Global Poker Strategic Thinking Society is not the person who learns poker so well as to become a pro. It's rather the student who learns poker well enough to take the skills of poker to do whatever the student wants to do in life. And it's Andrew that's going to be the executive director of this organization in its most immediate form, and be the person with whom other schools and universities will be working most directly in the formation of local chapters. I think at this point I'm delighted to take questions. Andrew, come on up here and take questions with me. Yes?
Examples of lessons which corporations and companies can learn from the game of poker?
Well, I think of poker first and foremost as an individual development. It's something that when I'm teaching my students, I want them to grow in their own self-confidence. I think of it further as an associational development tool, largely because of individuals developing. So, for example, we have Mr. Kevin Wallen here from Jamaica, interested in starting a poker strategic thinking society in Jamaica as part of an effort to focus Jamaica on the idea of self-development. Beyond that, from the point of view of companies, it's potentially an excellent way, I believe, of leading corporate folk to think in a more open way. Just as in the game itself, it's critical in negotiations to be able to see what the situation looks like from the other side of the table. And so for the teaching of negotiation skills, for the teaching of imaginative thinking skills, yes, that's something that corporations would be interested in.
If I could add to that, actually, just real quickly. I think that it's hard in poker to find lessons that a corporation wouldn't do well to learn. I mean, poker's a game that has so many elements to it that are useful from a business or a financial perspective. Everything from the pricing elements that go into establishing how much you bet at any given time, down to the considerations about position in a play. There's so many elements that go into the strategic thought of poker that I have a hard time imagining many situations where a corporation wouldn't do well to adopt the type of thinking that goes into good poker play.
Are you gonna start tournaments, or are you gonna start courses for people to learn how to play poker?
We're definitely doing workshops for students of poker. We are doing conferences that deal with the poker metaphors, and we are doing tournaments that will join the local chapters together and focus the idea of the global society in the sense of what you're suggesting is curricular elements. Yes, we want to do conferences that have at their core the exploration of the metaphor elements of poker.
Just to add to that, at least from my perspective in planning these conferences, the most compelling element of this to me is the strategic thought. I mean, it's the Global Poker Strategic Thinking Society, and the emphasis is properly there. I'm more interested in investigating the types of thought that go into good poker play and the interaction of those ideals with the real world, and how we can find a juncture between what happens in poker that allows a player to be successful, or good decisions and good critical thinking skills, and their application in other forms. How can we adopt that into education? How can we help people to be better critical thinkers based on what we see in action in this game? And so when the professor talks about bringing in experts from various fields, artificial intelligence experts, cognitive sciences, I'm expecting that they're going to look, and we will look at poker and how their expertise relates to the game and how the game reflects what they do best. And so I would expect any conference to look at those elements. Yeah, we're going to play poker, but we're going to play poker to see how that reflects the strategic thought and how we can apply that in what we do.
Are you focusing on any particular style of poker, like Texas Hold'em or whatever else there is? And two, how is your tournament going to be different from all the other, poker tournaments they already have? And since you think that people can learn so much from poker, does it then mean that like all these pro poker players, are really intelligent people, or,
Well, first of all, first question, Texas Hold'em, yes, that's the poker game we're going to play. Of all of the poker games, that has evolved as the most elegant game, the most easily learnable, and yet in its way the most profound. So Texas Hold'em will be the subject. In terms of whether the tournaments will be like all other tournaments, no, they will not be. First, there are no team poker tournaments presently being played at all. And so the vision that we are pursuing in internet terms makes use of the fact that when you play poker online, you play through an avatar. Now, usually people are playing their own avatar, but there's no reason why that avatar can't be team-driven. So the idea of having a group, a local chapter, playing as a team against other chapters playing as a team, each with their avatar, that hasn't been done, and it is just wide open territory for us. In terms of poker being a gathering of intelligent people, I would absolutely assert it. You do not find stupid poker players. You don't win at the poker table unless there's a real intelligence at work. It's one of the great things about poker is that it doesn't have to be a university intelligence. It can be a native intelligence. But it is absolutely a game that gathers intelligent people together. And from a university's point of view, the opportunity to be in contact with a global audience of intelligent people, young people, and be able to have the opportunity to attract them towards university, that is the university ambition. If you think from an educator's point of view, the opportunity to structure an environment where a university-based enterprise can be in touch with anyone with a net connection and make a contact that can begin a path that can lead that person from wherever they are to university, and their only necessary input in order to follow the path is diligence and intelligence. That's exactly what we're looking for. That is the poker university that we imagine. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about how, you talked a lot about the application of poker to sort of high-level thinking. What about the application to younger students, to secondary schools? How's that going to work?
Young students start out as voracious learners. They love to learn. Learning is fun. And you go to school, you hit the problem of sit still, take your turn, learn this, do homework, and it starts to turn people off. As people go through school, they learn successively. I'm not good at math, I'm not good at language, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. And you hope they come out the other end feeling like they're good at something. Right? The idea here is to catch kids at the point where their minds are still alive with a game that's really fun, and draw them in a way that leads them on rather than leads them out. I would say an inspiration, at least for my thought, was something called the Algebra Project, which is a conception of one of the great freedom riders of the American civil rights movement, Bob Moses. And he came to the conclusion that if you really want to change a situation for disadvantaged kids, teach them math in a way that gets through to them. So this is an extension of the idea of the Algebra Project, of the chess projects in school, things like that, but this one has the drive of a game that's just much more attractive and much more powerful, and I believe much more elegant and well-rounded in terms of the life skills that it actually offers kids.
We have time for, I think, 2 more questions, if there are 2 more questions.
An integral part of the game of poker seems to be tells as well. How are you going to have that available when you're playing in a group using one avatar? You can't really, you're not going to really have tells.
Well, you're totally right. The relationship of the face-to-face game to the internet game is extremely interesting. The internet game acts like a school for learning poker. You don't see the tells, although it may be that through organizations like State of Play, we develop avatars to a point where they actually start to offer tell possibilities. But the internet game is really a school for the face-to-face game. And yes, the tournament is an internet tournament in first conception, but the prospect of actually gathering face-to-face tournaments is something that would be attractive as well.
Can I add on to that just 1 second? We're rapidly approaching, if we're not already there, a world where so much communication is done over the internet, through email, through instant messaging. So much of our communication with business partners, with competitors, with customers is done without any face-to-face interaction whatsoever. And so there's a new fluency that you're having to develop in the interpretation of emails and the interpretation of internet messages and the interpretation of tells, if you will, that are done with no face-to-face interaction whatsoever. In poker, if you play over the internet, and I've played a little bit of poker over the internet in my time, there's no face-to-face interaction whatsoever. So you have to train yourself to recognize tells in a whole different realm, whether that's by the pattern of betting, whether that's something as simple as like the text communication that you're getting, or from whatever input you have. Rhythm, absolutely. I mean, I think you're absolutely right on. And I think extending fluency in that type of communication cannot do a disservice to our students as they're having to face a world where that type of thing is going to be integral to their day-to-day life.
One more. Shoot.
That's the last question.
Would you have any doubts on how far poker would be accepted? Like, for example, you mentioned kids. I would venture that kids would be more inclined to play Monopoly or more kid-centric game. And when you take it to the level of countries, you have China, which I think poker is an extremely foreign concept. So, what are your personal doubts? How do you guys plan to address this in the future?
Well, I'm betting on poker. I'm betting on it as a great game of skill. And though it's true, there's other great games of skill. Kids, let them play Monopoly until they get sick of it. But if they want to engage their minds, it's going to be a skill game that gets them. And whether they're playing mahjong or backgammon or chess, whatever it is, kids are attracted to using their brains in a way that challenges them. In that environment, I'm willing to bet on poker. It's just such an easily learned game, and the skills that it teaches are just so profound. And the engagement with numeracy, the engagement with risk analysis, the engagement with resource management, the engagement with personal interplay, confrontation, the channeling of aggression, the development of respect. I'll bet on poker.